This episode of the Blue Collar Real Estate Podcast brought to you by Stacy Mayo and the Scott Miller team at Ruoff Mortgage. Whether you're buying new or refinancing, Ruoff has a solution for you.
It's another Friday at 5. It's Greg and Ryan coming at you from the Blue Collar Studios here, and wanted to welcome you to another edition of Blue Collar Real Estate. Greg, what is a good word today, my brother?
Dude, I'm laughing because I didn't see a light come on.
You didn't see the light come on.
But all of a sudden, I've got you in my ears, so I'm looking around.
We only had 10 minutes of prep time here. Like, what are you talking about? The light was like right there. Now it's there. Like, Jason has all these awesome new cameras set up in her studio, so it's going to be a good day.
Here's the thing. Jason likes to mess with me with the red lights.
Well, I mean, it's got to be a good time, right?
I think it has to be for everybody.
So what's going on in the world? So before we dive into our topic this week, which is going to be a continuation of what we talked about last week, but tell me about what's going on, because you're another week into your book tour right now. You're booking gigs literally to like talk about this book. We talked about it a little bit last week on the show. So you've got so much cool stuff going on right now. Tell us, like, bring us up to speed on that, because I'm genuinely excited about this for you, man.
Well, like we talked when we met at the Blue Collar Real Estate
office the other day.
And dare I say, global headquarters.
Yeah, it is global headquarters, actually. I believe that.
But, you know, like we talked over the mozzarella sticks, because that, you know, without them, what is a meeting?
Those mozzarella sticks are actually fantastic there.
But so it's funny to me. There's a buddy of mine who always says God's a wacky dude.
He just has a different plan than I feel we do from time to time.
And I believe that. And so,
which is always better than our plan, by the way. But
oh, absolutely. But you and I always talk about, or you always say, just lean into it. Mm-hmm. Just go forward, lean into it. And that's kind of how it's been going with writing this book, and now that it's out, these opportunities to get in front of other people, to connect and collaborate with other people in the recovery field.
Yeah.
They just keep presenting themselves.
I love that.
It's the coolest thing.
No, but that's what it's about. You know, I was actually, I had your book sitting on my desk the other night. My son was, hanging out at my house. We were eating some dinner, and I showed it to him. And I'm like, everybody has a story to tell. And we're not going to go into all of that for, anybody that wants to read the book. We'll post a link online to it. But everybody has a great story to tell. We've all traveled a path.
Yep.
And that story is meant to benefit others, I feel, once you share it. And that's why I so commend you for taking the time to write this book, because while the story doesn't necessarily resonate with me, there are millions of people around the world that it 100% will resonate with, because they've been down that same path as what you have. So I'm so inspired by the fact that you took the time to do this over the last you started it years ago, but you really completed it the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And just really knocking it out and sharing that story. Dude, I'm inspired by that. I really, really am. And I want to do the same thing. I don't know what it's going to be about yet, but at the end of the day, you took the time to share your story that is 100% benefiting others already, which is why these opportunities keep presenting themselves. So congratulations.
And that's the cool thing. And thank you. When you step out and God tells you take this step, you have no idea where it's going, what it's about, what you're going to do, but you just in faith go, you know what? I'll do that. And then God shows you the next step. And like we talked Wednesday, and I honestly believe this with all my heart. It's not some Hallmark moment or whatever. It's actually how I see the world. Every single human being has experiences that, and those experiences create a story. And that story can be valuable in helping somebody else.
100%.
We just have to be willing to open ourselves up to the possibility and tell our story.
And that's pretty scary a lot of times. Like,
Absolutely.
That's why I've not done it yet, because it's like, wow, that's a little scary. I'm not sure I want to share that yet. But at the end of the day, when you do, the amount of freedom that comes out from that is got to be gargantuan, I would think.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, and just wait till you hit 50. You'll be like, it doesn't matter.
Couple more laps, I'll be there. I'll be there. I'm right behind you right now, my brother. So
but today, so last week we talked about foundations, right? And different types.
We did a deep dive into foundations last week. We really talked about the different types of options that exist.
Or a deep dig.
Better said. A deep dig into foundations. So we talked about crawl spaces. We talked about different ways to do crawl space. We talked about slabs. We talked about basements. We talked about different ways to do all that. But this week we're going to really dive into, in continuing our theme of discussing the trades industries. And man, we were super close to getting a guy on, and unfortunately he called me 30 minutes prior to the show, and he's like, dude, I'm still stuck on a job. So unfortunately we are still without a guest, to discuss these trades. So we're going to take from everything that you and I have learned throughout our careers and share it with everybody. But, the opportunities within the trades industry to go in and repair issues with foundations Oh my gosh. The gentleman I was talking to today, the company's called Michaelis. They're a gigantic contractor here in Indianapolis. They do full restorations, but one of the things that they're really, really known for is foundation work.
Yep.
They come in, I call them on a lot of the foundation issues I experience, helping clients.
And you've had a lot this year.
Unfortunately, I've had a plethora of foundation issues on both crawl spaces, basements, you name it. I have dealt with it and learned about it this year.
You might say you got stuck in a hole this year.
I would say
on foundations.
I wouldn't say I got stuck in a hole, but I would say I got thrown into one and I've been navigating my way through it pretty quickly. But it's the opportunities that exist are huge. I just put a house back on the market today. And the reason why we took it off is because we sold it 3 months ago. And when we sold this house, one of the major issues was the foundation. It had a lot of warped floors. It had mold in the crawl space. It had some, again, this is a little bit foreign to me. When I get on the roof, I can talk to you all day long. But it had some joists that were broke. It had some sill plates that were rotted out. I mean, there was just everything that can go wrong was just not the way it needed to be. And that was unfortunately the result of years and years and years of lack of maintenance, of anybody going down in the crawl space and just simply taking a look at what's going on there. So that's really what we want to talk about this week on the show, is what kind of opportunities exist from a career perspective. And then we'll also dive into what are the things that you need to be, conscientious of. But oh my gosh, the opportunities in this field, if you want to make some money, are huge.
Oh, they're dare I say, huge. And because foundation work really, it combines two things that equal high cost. Mm-hmm. It's secret knowledge.
Secret knowledge. We'll dive into that.
You should not get under a house and start moving wood around and block if you don't know what you're doing, right?
I mean, having a good idea is helpful.
And then the second thing it entails is, frankly, dirty work people don't want to do.
That's 100% it. I mean, I don't know if you've ever dug a sump pit in a crawl space.
Yep.
But, the normal shovel that exists at Lowe's is not going to help you. You got to get this little bitty shovel that's like this big, right? And then you literally got to hand dig that SOB out of there. And it's not fun.
I had to use a latrine shovel, is what my dad called it. Literally the shovel you had in Vietnam that folds down.
But that's what it is.
And it's a spade that opens up that big. Yeah, and you're laying on your gut doing this.
And then you got to move the dirt over with your hand. I mean, it is, if we could think of a sexy job right now, like maybe selling fashion clothes,
or selling real estate
at 6th Fifth Avenue. I wouldn't say selling real estate. I've done a lot of dirty work selling real estate. But ultimately, it's not something everybody wants to do.
Right.
Yet if you just simply, you were telling me the story about, somebody right before we started the show that absolutely loved doing this stuff because it was something different. It was something that they hadn't ever done before. And all of a sudden they figured out, oh my gosh, I'm really good at this because I'm a relatively small individual and my ability to get in there and do this is easy. So he was able to go in and do all of this work.
And the comparative. So this kid, young man now, is one of my 4 sons.
Yeah.
And I was when I was a contractor, I don't like crawl spaces.
No, I don't get in crawl spaces.
I don't like them at all.
I'm scared.
I need to do my fall inspection of my crawl space, but Mike Warren from Warren Mechanical is coming over to install a new furnace and run gas line. I'm waiting until he's over there.
Yes.
So then we're both down there.
That's safer, I feel.
So I hate them. And so Jackson was working with me, and I had a Visqueen job to do in a crawl space, and I'm like, hey, you go roll out all the Visqueen, get all the debris out of the crawl space, roll out all the Visqueen, and I'll pay you your normal hourly plus a bonus.
Yeah.
He's like, cool. And he did that on several jobs for me. So fast forward, he gets out of school, he gets a job at a foundation company. He called himself a crawl rat. And he did that, worked his way up to foreman. Then he started working on cars and trying some different things. While he's trying, because he's got enough experience in it now, while his end goal, and he's only 23 years old, is to open his own foundation company.
Because it so exists, like we talked about before. I mean, I started my own roofing company because I worked for a really strong company 10, 12 years ago now, learned the skill, and oh my gosh, that skill, you don't just forget that, right?
And that's the path that we've talked about with every single trade.
Every single one of them.
You get into something, you're like, hey, I kind of dig this. You dig roofing, he did crawl spaces, I did carpentry, whatever it is. Okay, I'm going to go work for somebody. I'm going to learn everything I can. Now I've become somewhat of a master in my field. I've got the ability, if I have the drive, to go start my own business doing it.
That's it. And again, I support anybody who wants to start their own business. I will also say it's not an easy path. There's going to be some sleepless nights. There's going to be some uncomfortability factors involved in that. But at the end of the day, you're not working for year one. You're working for year 3+. You're working for after you've been able to establish this and you surround yourself with good people that can help you understand how to grow a business, et cetera. There's a lot that goes into it, but yet the opportunity is truly endless. And that's what I love about it, is it creates so much opportunity, because here's the thing, it's not going to quit raining in places like central Indiana, right?
Right.
There's always going to be issues with crawl space. There's always going to be issues with basements. There's always going to be issues with foundations. So the opportunity within this industry is just simply abound. It is, how much work do you want to do? It's there. You just got to go get it.
And just like being alone on a teeter-totter, sometimes it's hard to get off the ground. But it is absolutely worth it.
Yep.
Because the rewards, as you well know, and as Jason knows, and probably a lot of our listeners, the rewards of starting your own thing, doing it, working it, putting your blood, sweat, and tears in it, and then seeing it begin to grow and succeed and help people. There's nothing like that in the world.
That's truly my favorite thing in the world. And I just got an email this afternoon, and we've done a lot of work for a real estate investor here in town. This is not pertaining to crawl spaces, but exactly to your point right there. And we've now done 5 roofs for this single real estate investor in the last 2 months, because she's very, very involved in the real estate market here in the central Indianapolis area. And so we've done a lot of work for her. And she sent me an email today, and she's like, I so love doing business with you, just simply because you communicate, you tell me what's going on. Like, that absolutely made my day. I got that email about 3:30 today. It's a little after 5 right now. And it just made my day, because I love working hard for people. And the result of that is, guess what? They tell all their friends.
Yep.
They tell all of their friends, because finding somebody who shows up on time, does what they say they're going to do, the 3 things we always talk about on these episodes, is so hard. So and when you do that, oh my gosh, they just keep calling back, and they tell all their friends, and your business continues to grow organically, which is so awesome.
And the last thing I'm going to say about this, and then we need to get into the actual thing. But like I said, Mike Warner came out and was looking and give me a good price on doing my HVAC stuff. Here's what's funny about that. He's known I was getting gas brought to the house, and we've been talking about this for a few weeks now. He texted me earlier this week and said, hey, I'm doing the furnace at your mom's house. Do you want me to slip by and look at yours? Are you home? And I'm like, yeah, I'm home. So that's how Mike Warren has grown his business.
Yeah.
When I met him, he was starting out. He had been in the business a while, but he hadn't been in his own thing for a while.
Yeah.
And he was in a ratty-looking van. No offense, Mike. But he did great work. His prices were good. He was honest. So fast forward, what's it been 9 years now I've been working with him. He pulls up my driveway in a brand new van. I'm like, nice van. Sexy.
Heck yeah.
And he's been doing referral business for me forever, because if anybody has an HVAC issue, even my own mother, dude, I'm calling Mike.
Yep.
He shows up. He does what he says he's going to do. His prices are fair and his work's good. What else do you want?
That's it. And guess what? You just keep getting new opportunities thrown at you. So let's dive into this week's episode. So we're going to talk about how to fix some of these issues that exist. We're going to expose some opportunities that are available for anybody who is at all considering, what could I do with the next 10 years of my life? This is a business that 100% could pay you huge dividends if only you dive into it, spend a couple of years learning, and then go to work.
So let's start off talking about the different types of issues you might see in foundations.
Let's go.
Jason, pick one, please. Yep.
There we go. So what we're looking at, and again, if you are not listening or if you're not watching this on YouTube, I highly encourage you to, because the visual part of this is super, super important. However, if you're not, we'll do our best to describe it. So go ahead.
So
this is a nice house.
Yeah, this house is beautiful. For viewers of our other episodes, it's a post-World War II bungalow with a room addition and another one.
And the room addition, I don't feel was done appropriately, because it's literally, it's falling off by 1 foot. Like, it literally is falling away from the house by 1 foot.
I know, look at that. I mean,
and that B vent on this roof is just slightly higher than it needs to be. I mean, you really only need to get a little bit above the ridge, and they're like, that's on sale at Menards. Let's just buy that one and just put it up.
Sure, it's 8 feet long, but we don't know how to cut it. Notice Adam left his earth mover, but we've got several spots where the foundation's failing. Now, this is an extreme example.
It's pretty rough,
and it kind of cracked me up. But nonetheless, if your foundation is junk, this is a potentiality.
What could ultimately happen if you just simply don't address what's going on right now.
So let's talk about the mild stuff first, right?
Yep.
Sometimes in many houses, and I'll dare I say most houses, you have dissimilar materials. You have a lot of wood. Wood expands, contracts, things happen. We have truss uplift, different stuff. You're going to have settlement to a degree.
Yeah.
Now, a little bit of settlement might show, like in this next picture, on a door jamb.
Yep.
And the drywall above it. See, there's just a little crack here.
And that's something, and again, for those that are not watching right now, I want to just kind of do my best to elaborate this. But if you ever built a new house, maybe with a builder or anybody, I mean, any brand new house, you're going to experience this as the home goes through its seasons, right? You know,
Right.
especially the first year. That's why most builders out there offer an 11-month walkthrough, because they're going to come back, they're going to fix things like this, because it's simply it's going to happen. It's impossible to prevent it from happening, because the home's going to expand, it's going to contract, it's going to go through the motions, just like you just said. But what we're looking at right here is a very simple settlement crack. You know, it's in the drywall. It's not a structural issue, but it's just simply a crack that's running up the drywall near the ceiling of a house.
So in that event, if you look at that and you think, ooh, I wonder if that's serious. Well, one thing you want to look at is the door. The door inside the door jamb. Is the reveal even? In other words, the gap around the door and the jamb, is it about the same all around? You don't need a special instrument to measure that. Take a few steps back and look. Your eyeball will catch up if it's wonky, right?
Or if it's not even opening and closing properly.
Right. Much easier solution. Thanks.
That's it.
But so this can just be a mild thing, and we expect it in a lot of houses, right?
Yep. And so fixing something like this is literally just coming in and doing a simple drywall repair. So this is not necessarily a foundation problem, but it could be an indicator to a bigger issue if it continues to persist. Correct? Right. Okay.
So the next thing, this is a little bit bigger problem, and Jason's going to be pissed because the resolution on this picture is bad. If you're watching on YouTube, that's my fault, not Jason's. But look at the size of the crack here.
So this is something I definitely want to dive into. Again, just kind of illustrate for the people that aren't watching right now, that are listening right now. But this is, the exterior shot of a brick home. Looks like a brick ranch home.
Yeah.
And, this has some strong degree of separation, and it doesn't only follow the mortar joints, the concrete between the bricks. It actually splits the bricks in some areas. So, Greg, what causes something like this where if you're looking at the exterior of your home and you've got almost like a stair-step crack going all the way down and even possibly through a brick, what is one of the things that causes something like this?
So when I look at this, what I think, and the way brick veneer homes are done, right? And they're stick framed with wood, and then brick is put over the outside. The foundation, and pardon me if you're watching this, I didn't pull a picture of this up, but the foundation block that goes on top is shaped like an L.
Yeah.
It's got what's called a brick ledge on it. The brick goes to that and all the way up. So imagine the weight from this moment is transferring all the way down through the brick, into that block, and down to the footer. Somebody didn't pour the footer right. They didn't set the block right. There's something wrong with the foundation.
Yeah.
Because the foundation is starting to sink or heave in one spot or the other, and it looks like here in a couple spots. So much so that it is breaking bricks in half with that shear force, right?
Literally, yeah.
So I see this and I go, oh, that's bad.
Yeah, that's super bad. And again, one of the things that you definitely want to look at when you're, maybe you have a house that you see a little bit of a stair-step crack going on, one of the things you definitely want to monitor is the thickness of that crack, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a hairline crack may not be that big of an issue. They say this all the time when you're building a brand new house. I've sat in on many of these meetings, been to the, final orientation on brand new homes. They always say it's like if you can fit a quarter in it, that's acceptable. But anything bigger than a quarter going in it, that's a problem,
right?
Especially as the concrete's moving up or down, or it's moving side to side. You don't want to be able to fit a quarter inside of that. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, concrete takes 98 years to fully cure.
That's longer than I'll probably live.
Right. Same. I'm already 50, but I'd have to be 148. But so concrete takes a while to cure, and especially a slab in your basement or a slab on grade, you may get some cracks. And you're right. If it's smaller than a quarter or smaller, it's fine. It happens.
Well, concrete's always going to crack. I mean, you talk to any concrete company out there. I mean, concrete is going to crack. It's just, but you want to control where it cracks, right?
Right. And when we lived out in Greencastle on a little farmette, the guy down the road had a pole barn built. And he had 6-inch concrete poured for the slab, which is appropriate. Mm-hmm. He had fiber reinforcement put in. It's almost like a fiberglass they put in to keep it from cracking, so it kind of moves a little bit. And then, of course, the rebar and the screen mesh, and he did everything he could to keep that floor from cracking. Here's what he didn't do. He didn't condition the space inside the barn.
Before, yeah.
So you got a steel wall, basically, that's that thick. Guess what happens when it gets 20 below zero outside?
Boy,
it's 20 below zero inside.
Yeah, it sure does. That steel is yeah.
So the slab cracked just a little bit. It wasn't anything bad, but he lost his flecking mind. And I was like, dude, what do you think was going to happen?
That's no bueno. So looking at stair step cracks, looking at cracks in the exterior foundation walls is definitely the first thing that we're looking at.
Yeah. So this next one is a brick foundation, meaning and we talked about that last week.
Yep.
This is either a really tall crawl space or a really short basement. I can't decide which. But you can see daylight.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
There's a chance that could leak, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like rodents, water,
anything,
really, really small children could get through that. You want to see daylight in the window. I feel like that's
that's the purpose, I feel.
So this is a foundation failing, but guess what? And we're going to get into this in a minute after we look at a couple more examples. Even this is fixable.
Of course it is. Of course it is. We're going to go into some of the examples of how you fix this, and again, what the opportunities that are available in the industry to go ahead and fix issues like this, because you don't need to tear the house down. This thing isn't going to fall down, but it certainly needs addressed.
Yes.
Right?
And once it's addressed, and I had this couple I was working with, I just loved them to death. They were really, really cool people. We got under contract on a house. There was cinder block foundation, and it had been repaired by a company. There was a 10 or 20-year warranty with it, whatever it was. I think 20. Anyway, and they backed out of the deal because they were scared. Now, and I'm not mad at them, but I'm just saying this can be fixed. And when it is fixed, and it's done by a company that knows what they're doing, and we're going to talk about why that pays so much, right? It's okay. Because the foundation's not going to look like in this one case when it was built in 1925 forever. Right. So next picture, block foundation.
All right. So for everybody again that's not watching on YouTube right now or Facebook, this is you see this a lot.
Oh yeah.
You really, really see this a lot. This is a block foundation. So imagine the cinder blocks out there, and it's just literally it's a stair step crack. It literally looks like a stair step all the way up from the bottom to the top where this thing is cracked at, and it's just literally cracking along the mortar joints.
Well, and that in and of itself is not a huge deal. What concerns me about this picture, other than the shoddy work on the deck and the ridge or band board,
that is a little sketchy.
But this side of the stair step is
pulling out
this way.
Yeah, it's literally separating the opposite way. It's not just moving up or down, it's moving in and out. Yeah,
that, and I bet if we were to stand here and look down this wall, we'd see the top leaning. So that concerns me. Guess what? Still fixable.
So we're going to dive into those solutions here in just a quick moment. But again, these are the things that you want to look for. If you're looking at opportunities to get into a business, again, walk through a couple housing communities that were built in the 70s, the 60s.
Yep.
You're going to find probably 1 in 5 houses that have a problem like this, I would imagine.
And it's not because they were built wrong.
No, it's just like life happens, right? Like we as human beings, we age and we fall apart a little bit, right? We got to go get your stuff fixed.
Yep.
Like as human beings, property is the exact same way.
And you'll find that technology has improved and has advanced and whatever. But you'll find that even a well-made house, like you said, it ages and stuff happens. And especially like in the Midwest, we have so much dense clay soil in Indiana. It causes problems with foundations.
Well, we also have super extreme weather here. I mean, we go from -10 in the coldest months to 110 with 100% humidity in the summer. I mean, that's a dramatic swing in temperature. Yep. So your home is going through massive changes throughout a 12-month period.
I know people in Southern California are like, when it swings from 70 to 78, it's But anyway, so the next picture.
This is a really good picture. And so for anybody that is looking for a good joke right now, I really want to encourage you to definitely hop onto YouTube right now because this actually happened. Greg took this photo, I don't know, a few weeks ago right now because this actually happened and it tied in exactly with what we wanted to talk about here. But you've heard the story of putting a Band-Aid over it.
Right.
Well, this actually happened. There's a Band-Aid over a settlement crack. I'm relatively sure that Band-Aid strength is not going to work. But, Craig, enlighten us.
Well, it depends. Is it Band-Aid brand or Curad? Because that's the thing. But so this is a crack in a concrete foundation wall. You can tell it goes down at an angle because it's poured concrete. Concrete cracks are all wonky and all over the place. The next picture shows a really good one. We were talking about this before the show. This is a concrete poured basement wall. This horizontal crack all the way across, and you can kind of tell in the picture it's doing this in the middle.
Yeah, it's folding, yeah.
That's bad.
It's not ideal.
And we talked about, you can see the window, and you figure ground level's right about here. When they built the house, they did not do an effective job of getting the water away from the foundation.
Yes. And that is the biggest problem. Oh my gosh, I'm dealing with another crawl space issue. This is like the 13th or 14th one this year. Right now, I'm dealing with this because the water doesn't get away from the house.
Right.
I mean, hell, go to damn Lowe's, go to anywhere and get the water away from the house. Go buy those like corrugated extension things, go buy some gutter extensions, get the water away from the house. If you do that, almost everything else that we're going to talk about, you will never have to spend money on. But if you don't get the water away from your house, you're 100% going to have problems that are going to be very expensive in a short period of time.
And let's circle back around for just a second. The downspout extenders.
Yeah.
When we bought our house, it was built in 78. It's a ranch on a foundation, or crawl space. Well, it is on a foundation, but anyway. When we bought the house, I got in the crawl space and was crawling around. At that time, I was a home inspector. And on the southwest corner of the house, no, northwest corner of the house, there was wet block in the corner. Well, I was a home inspector. I knew exactly what to go look for. I made a note of it, finished crawling around. I got out, walked around to that corner of the house. Guess what?
No downspout extension.
The 4x3 downspout was dumping right on the corner of the foundation. So I went and spent, I think, $12. I bought an extender that was green. I wanted to match the grass. Turned it out away so it went down to the swale. After, 2 months, I was back down in there plugging in a new sump pump. And because everything fails right after you buy the house, right? And guess what?
Problem solved?
Yeah, the block was dry.
It's relatively that simple.
Now imagine
in most cases.
Imagine if I had let that go for 15 years.
But that's it. What you just said right there is the pivotal point that I want everybody to 100% take into consideration is it takes 1 year tops. Perfect example. A house I sold in Avon a year ago, November, right? It's December 10th or 11th right now. In November of 2019, I helped a gentleman buy a house in Avon. We resold that house less than a year later because life changed. He needed something different. We resold that house, and there was a lot of crawl space issues that simply weren't there a year ago because of exactly what you just said.
Right. Because
in the inspection report, it said, hey, you need to get the water away from the thing. And because it cost $6, they're like, yeah, it's no big deal. Well, he never spent that $6 on 3 corners of the house, and now all of a sudden we had mold issues. And I'm not exaggerating. It's insane how quickly problems can present themselves if you don't get the water away from the house. That is so, so, so important because water creates every kind of issue. And guess what? If it's there for a long period of time, you're going to have mold. You're going to have all these other issues that are, quite frankly, super expensive to fix.
Right. Exactly.
Not hard to fix, but expensive.
And I'd rather fix it now than have all this crap develop and spend 20 grand fixing it later.
Exactly.
That's just me, but I'm cheap.
But that's what you're going to realistically spend on something like this. Not to dive too far ahead right now, but at the end of the day, if you have a major crawl space or basement or foundation issue, we're talking $10,000 to $30,000. I've had every range in between of jobs that have happened on homes that I've helped people sell this year that were anywhere between $10,000 and $30,000.
And look, every year, every so often, technology changes with everything, right? But specifically with foundations.
Yeah.
I just closed on a house today in Chatham Arch, or Chatham Arch, depending on where you're from, over off Mass Ave, right?
Yeah.
And the house was built in the 1870s, 1880s, brick foundation, and you can go into the basement and you can see where over the years they tried different stuff. They tried to parge the brick foundation, which means just a skim coat of mortar. On one wall, that was kind of the bad one, they had built foundation base out, filled that up, and it's probably 2 feet tall, trying to get a little more stability and support. Down the side of the house, the east side of the house, where the water, they figured out the water was getting in. Of course, downtown, old houses, this much
They're
space.
Super close, yep.
What they did there, my seller, a professional contractor, came out, put in a French drain system on the outside and between the sidewalks that drain the water away from the house and out into basically a cistern in the back. So there was no more problems. But what all I'm saying is over 60 years, I got 3 or 4 generations of tries to fix it.
Yep.
Some of the new tech in this next picture,
I'm excited.
It's not new anymore, but it's a few years old.
It's
but
new-ish.
It's so sexy. This is called carbon fiber.
Yeah.
And it's
lightweight
so cool.
and expensive and really strong.
Super strong. What they do is they attach to the band board up here.
Mm-hmm.
They run this carbon fiber strapping, which I've seen them 6 inches wide. I've seen them up to 12. They run them down, and then they tighten this. And what that strap does basically is hold the wall
In place.
right.
Yeah.
To me, it's brilliant. It's less intrusive as the next thing we're going to look at here in a minute. And it's a little more expensive. But if your foundation wall's splitting like this one is here in the middle, what are you going to do?
You've got to stop it somehow. Otherwise, you're going to literally have a house looking like the very first picture that we saw.
Right.
I mean, where it's falling apart because it's not addressed appropriately.
And
there it is. Thank you, Jason. That's like
and
awesome editing.
My boy called himself a crawl rat, and all the guys he worked with kind of joked about it and stuff. But understand that this is a highly specialized trade.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah,
This is not something you want to go buy some crap at Lowe's if you can even buy it and go try to do this yourself because you have no idea what you're doing.
No, because there's so much anchoring that's involved with this. I mean, there's a high level of skill that's involved in doing work like this.
Yep.
And again, it's not particularly hard to do it. It just takes understanding how to do it. It takes understanding what are the nuances of how do I actually do this work to make sure that I'm not going to waste money doing something again. This
next one you'll see, too, this technology's been around a while, these steel I-beams, right?
Yep.
Now, as we talked before, and there's different ways to do this. This is certainly one of them, but usually it'll go up, if it's on the inside of the wall, it'll go up to the sill plate and bolt in, and it'll be set in concrete in the bottom. Again, holding the wall in place. Now, what they've done here with this through bolt goes out.
This is interesting. If you don't mind, I'm going to interrupt because I actually just saw this happen the other day because I helped a gentleman buy a house and we had to do this on it. And what they did is they literally, you have to go out from the house, probably 20, 30 foot, and you literally dig a hole, you pour some concrete in there, so you literally build another footer down, and then you run this bolt all the way through the ground, and that's what holds it in place. I mean, it's a little bit archaic if you think about it. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to tear up my yard 30 foot away from my house in order to do this. But yes, that's what it takes in order to pull that house back to where it's supposed to be, literally.
Yeah, and that's, again, like we talked about in the pictures of what's bad, it can be fixed. Mm-hmm. Now, that is an extreme way to do it, but the carbon fiber will hold it in place. It won't get bad.
I like carbon fiber.
It won't get more
really
bad
well on race cars too, by the way.
Right.
It's also super cheap.
And my buddy Super Dave, who builds race car stuff out of carbon fiber, would say the same thing. But with this, because of the technology, and it's a dead man, right? What's out in the yard, and they can crank this bolt, and the technology has been around for a couple hundred years now.
Yep.
But it still works, and you can reshore that wall back up.
Yep. And
that's the advantage of that. So we keep talking about getting the water away from the foundation, right? All these fixes are great, but if you're not dealing with the problem that caused the problem,
you're literally just dealing with the symptoms. You're not solving the problem. Right. So let's kind of dive into that next because this is so important. It's like, how would you actually get the water away from the house? What do you deal with it? Because you obviously can't stop it from raining. You can't stop the water situation, but yet you've got to do something about it. So we're going to kind of dive into what happens next with some different drainage options. And I'm going to take a quick step away.
Right on. And even regardless, okay, of what Milli Vanilli said, you can blame it on the rain. However, this picture, I kind of want to dig in here because there's so much going on in this picture. First of all, we've got the PVC pipe down, right? We're surrounding that PVC pipe with gravel. Now, in order to get this is inside a basement. What somebody had to do, a company had to come in and they had to jackhammer out this trench.
Yeah.
Down. This is the footer, if you're watching this on, anything. This is the footer. The foundation starts here and goes up, right? So what they did, they came in and they cut this trench that you can see all the way up in the picture, all the way down to the bottom of the footer. They put this gravel in. They laid the pipe. The gravel covers the pipe. This membrane is what allows water that gets behind it from the inside, but also coming in from the base of the foundation, gets it away and goes down into this gravel and directs into the pipe. That pipe, as you know, has little holes in it all along to allow the water to percolate through.
Yep.
Then they have to recover it with concrete and finish that concrete. I know from my kid doing this job, everything you see here is done by one crew.
By one crew, literally by hand, because this is not something that you get to go in there and bring heavy machinery in to do, because you're in a very confined area. Whether you're in a crawl space or a basement, you're in somebody's house. Ideally, a basement's so much easier, I would think, than a crawl space. Yet, you're doing this, all this work is by hand, because you can't go in and, again, bring in an excavator to dig this trench. And again, if you're not watching this on YouTube, please hop over there real quick. Check this episode out, because you'll see exactly what we're talking about. I mean, this is literally 18 to 24 inches wide from the edge of the house over in order to dig a deep enough hole to install this drain tile to get the water away from the house. But that's the only effective way to really truly solve the problem. You can do all this other stuff that's like haphazard, but this is what's going to actually solve the problem. This is called a French drain. Is that correct?
Right.
So it's called a French drain. Jeez. I don't know. Anyway, yes, what you said. But that's what it is. And so, again, anything that's hard, anything that takes time, anything that's a little bit dirty, most people don't want to do that stuff, right?
Right.
But if you do, oh my gosh, I mean, you're charging anywhere between probably $35 to $75 a foot to install this stuff as a contractor. Right?
Right.
So do that math real quick. You got a house that's 2,400 square foot that's a one-level ranch home. Oh my gosh, that thing's 40 by 30, right?
Yep.
Do the math around that real quick. That stuff adds up super fast. And so there's profitability into that. And again, is it a sexy desk job? Nope, it's not. But guess what? It pays way better.
And here's the thing. Let's say you're a guy who's a neurosurgeon. Mm-hmm. That's a valuable career, is it not? And a valuable trade.
Without a doubt.
So, but do you know how to do this?
No.
No. So you have to hire somebody to do it. Just like if somebody needed neurosurgery, they'd hire you.
Yeah, just like I literally did some work for a doctor's house today. We put up Christmas lights because he's like, hell no, I'm not getting up on my roof. I'll fix you, but I'm not fixing that. He's like, nope. It was super funny. He's a super cool guy.
So that's on the interior of the house. The other way to do a French drain, again, moisture management, water management, is on the outside, and that's our next picture.
Yep.
Again, we have a membrane coming down the foundation. We have the gravel, and you can see with this membrane, he's essentially created a trough.
Yeah.
We don't want weeds coming up. We don't want roots growing in. We don't want any of that. Here you can see the perforation, right?
Yep.
In the pipe.
Actual drain pipe itself, yep.
So they put the crushed gravel down. They're going to put landscape fabric over that to keep the rocks from going through the pipe.
Yeah, it's not growing anything anytime soon.
And then they're going to put more gravel on, and then they'll cover that back with dirt. Now, this is capped here, and looking at the pitch, you can see how it goes downhill that way.
Yep.
It either goes out to a spot in the backyard where they've dug a pit and put a bunch of gravel in there, and the water just dumps in and leaches out as it does, or it goes out into a drainage ditch. I don't know what they have going on over here. But this is another way to do it.
Yep.
We've seen houses have to have this done all the way around the exterior perimeter. Now, that involves heavy equipment.
Yep.
Mini
excavators. Yep.
You got to pay for the equipment rental for the day, and you got to pay for the guy to operate it. Because as we talked last week, when we were talking about digging footers, not everybody can just jump on a backhoe and operate it.
Yeah, no, I've attempted to drive some heavy machinery in the last couple of weeks because my buddy just bought one. Yeah, I'm not qualified to do that just yet. So he's like, it's super easy. Just hop on there and you just move a couple levers. I'm like, all right, I need a little more practice.
Oh, dude, I'll tell you a funny story. Adam was clearing a lot, and he has property out in the middle of nowhere, and so he dumps dirt out there. So, I was going to be at his property. I was going to be hauling the loads back and forth with his dump trailer. Even my big old truck won't pull his dump trailer, so I had to drive his truck. I was going to be on the Bobcat at his property moving dirt. I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, I drove a Bobcat when I was 18 and worked for a landscaper. Didn't think much of it. I'm like, yeah, fine. So I get down there. Well, his dad's at his property. His dad owned a heavy equipment, an earth-moving company.
So he's been there before.
And it's wet and it's raining and it was kind of nasty. This was back in August or September. I couldn't do squat. I couldn't get the bucket full. And finally his dad's like, let me show you how to do it. So he shows me how to do it. I get back on, and he's talking me through every time. And the whole day, every time I came back for another load, he's talking me through how to do it.
That's awesome, though.
By the end of the day, I could do the minuscule earth-moving task I was doing okay because his dad was so unbelievably patient with me. Because, he just wanted to go, come on, dude. Just
literally, you might just want to, step away, son.
Now,
I got this.
Right. Now, that's just me on a Bobcat trying to scoop dirt up and put it in something. That's not digging a trench right next to your $250,000 house.
No, and that's just it. That's so just it. I mean, understanding how to operate this equipment is truly a skill set within itself. It's not that dumb labor that you just think that it is. Oh my gosh, it takes immense skill to not mess this person's house up, to not run that the excavator through the wall, or just mess it up. Period, because. Man, it takes time to learn how to do that and do it exceptionally well.
And not to beat it to death, but this cat in the pit, he's got a level of skill.
Oh, my gosh.
Look,
yeah.
Let's imagine, all right here's the porch, right? And here's the foundation for the porch. Let's imagine he accidentally screwed up and pitched this pipe backwards.
Yeah, I guess what's going to happen in about a year? They're getting a phone call.
So all the water now, gallons and you know how much water comes off a roof and via downspouts. All the water's now dumping right on this corner.
Yep.
Your porch fails, it's back in the basement or crawl space. This guy knows what he's doing. And that's kind of what I want to drive home, because we think of some trades, some people think of some trades as, like you said, just grunt work. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you're going to work hard and you're going to grunt while you're working. But you got to know your stuff. Yeah. And with the foundation business, one of the coolest things I think about it, because like my son that did it, he's one of the smartest kids I've ever known. And I'm not biased. Mm-hmm. Well, I might be a little bit. But he still is. In fact, I'm gifted. All four of my sons are brilliant. They, I'm sure, get it from their mom's side. But anyway, I just cut Ryan off at the pass. But one of the coolest things about this industry is that it's on-the-job training.
Yeah.
My son never had any interest in college, as smart as he was. And that's fine. I could care less. But this industry, you go in, you start, you work your butt off, you take initiative, you ask your foreman, hey, what are you doing? What else can I do? What do you need me for? You do whatever you're asked to do, and then after a while, especially in this day and age with the trades, guys will see that initiative, and they're like, this cat digs crawl spaces.
Dude, and that's what I so want to just drive that point home real quick. And, we've run a little bit long on this show, but, I mean, truly what you just said is the key to all of this.
Yep.
If you want to start something new, all you have to do is just dive in and say, what do I do next? What's next? What else can I do? Ask a couple questions like that, and you will forever have gainful employment that pays you super, super well. I'm so excited right now. I've got a young gentleman that's working with us now on the roofing side of things, but he was, a union, he was out pouring concrete. He was tearing up concrete. He's doing a lot of road work in the past for the union stuff, and he learned a lot of cool stuff, but he's like, it's just not for me. So now he's helping us with roofing stuff now, and he's really, really taken on to it super, super well. But he's telling me all these stories about guys that can run a mini excavator and flip somebody's hat off their head, and it'll land back on there because they are so skilled in what they do.
Yep.
And oh my gosh, that stuff pays $70-$80 an hour in some cases. All you have to do is just show up and do the work on time and not mess it up. And oh my gosh, you are getting paid exceptionally well. And $70-$80 an hour, by the way, if you're not familiar with that, that's over six figures.
Oh, yeah.
So that's not bad income, especially for something that you get paid, not pay to go learn, you get paid to learn. That's what I love about the trades industry is I don't have to go somewhere and pay $40,000 a year and just learn a bunch of shit that I don't need that I'm never going to care about, excuse my language. Beep. But ultimately, it's you get paid to learn specifically what you need to do, and then that never leaves you. It's always with you. So you can come back to it in 10 years, 20 years, and that's going to immediately apply to what you just are trying to accomplish.
And one of the biggest things, the man or woman that's your boss that's telling you what to do every day, there's a 99% chance that person did your job.
100% chance, I would say.
They didn't get a 4-year management degree and come in and follow some manual about how to lead people. No, they did your job.
Yeah.
And they figured out what works and what doesn't work.
And that's just it. That's what I love about this industry. That's what I love about this industry, though. And just to kind of piggyback on that, I mean, we've installed Christmas lights for 28 people in the last 40 days. And so I'm super thankful for that. I didn't know anything about doing this 40 days ago. Not a darn thing. But then all of a sudden you learn a couple small things. You go out and actually do it. You mess it up a couple times. Then you go back and fix it. And oh my gosh, now all of a sudden you're getting referrals like I can't keep up anymore. And all you have to do is just do good work and care this much, actually ideally that much, about your customers, and opportunities just never quit turning off.
Which is why I'm going to have you come out and hang my Arbor Day lights in a few months.
I got you covered.
So, but with that, we're going to wrap up here. So we've talked about foundations last week and how they go in. And now we've talked about what breaks with them, how to fix it, and what that trade looks like.
And that's what I'm excited about. This one even more than last week.
But I'm going to throw something at you.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm going to throw something at you.
I interrupted you.
Because I'm the one that has to do show notes, and this is a hell of a long episode to listen to. Next week, we're going to talk about another skilled trade.
I'm all in. All in.
You ready for this?
I am.
Y'all ready for this?
There's the light.
Da-na-na-na. No.
He didn't catch you that time.
Yeah, he did that time. So next week, we're going to dive in and talk about the skilled trade that's near and dear to my family, trucking.
Trucking?
Trucking.
We're going to talk about trucking next week?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. I love trucking.
And how it relates to the trades.
Trucking people also sponsor a lot of race cars, so I vote yes to that. So let's do it. So that's what's coming up next week on Blue Collar Real Estate, everybody. So that's going to wrap up another Friday at 5 for Blue Collar Real Estate. I am Ryan Herget, Greg Mayo, my main man, sitting right next to me. Thank you very much for tuning in. And if you took something away from this episode, be sure to like, comment, and definitely subscribe, because we want to hear from you. We want to know what's going on in your mind. How can we help serve you a little bit better moving forward? Greg, anything else?
I think that about covers it. Y'all have a good weekend.
Appreciate it, everybody. Have a good one.